episode 36 of the Anime Dojo. We're gonna end off with something very interesting, JJK. But first, Chris, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good, bro. How about you?
Doing well. We're gonna go through episode 47 of JJK, the final episodes of season two, part two. But before we do that, we're gonna also talk about the anticipated winter anime. I have the top 10 list from Anime Corner. We can go through some of the other lists. I looked at the list today. There's over 46 different anime coming out this spring season. There's a lot. We're going to talk about our top picks, what things we're going to be watching. We're also going to reveal what we're going to be watching for the winter season. So stay tuned for that. Then me and Chris both have a question for each other. Mine's kind of deal with JJK. Chris has one that's kind of really interesting and something that he saw on Instagram. I saw mine on Instagram as well. But first, let's get into the other one of the big news item that came out from this week. So we got the announcement for Overlord movie coming out, and the weird part about this movie, it's called Overlord Kings. I forget. It's like Kingdom, Hell's Kingdom, or something like that. Chris, what do you think about Overlord getting a movie after the series have came out? Because we got all these movie announcements now. Demon Slayer started this off with the fact we're getting the first episode of season the Hashira arc. Everybody else started announcing movies. Do you think this is going to be a good trend or kind of a weird trend?
So, seeing as I have no idea that if that anime is part of the manga or if it sits the animator's illustration, I'm wondering where they're going to go with it and what they're trying to do with it. Because like that anime is one of my favorite ikaseis because of the premise of how
Mm-hmm.
they took it. And so depending on how they do the anime, it can actually be pretty epic or pretty lame. So I would
I,
like to see the synopsis of it.
I'm slightly worried because we did get some more information for on January 1st, and I haven't looked at the information yet for that. But I like Overlord. I'm like you; it's one of the best ikaseis out there. I do think it's odd though because I think it's season two, season three, or season one and two are good. Season three is kind of slow. And I think season three for me was just super slow. I finally did finish the series. I think the series is fun. It is kind of weird that they're going to make a movie based on either, like you say, the mangaka release of this, or is it just going to be like an animated side story thing? My other question to you then is: do you think we're going to get? Is this going to be the year of anime movies?
I think this is going to be the first quote unquote fire explosion of movie animes. Like we're gonna see the first firework, and that's going to let us know if the following year is going to be the year for movies, or if it's just a one-off thing.
When you say a firework, you're saying that if Demon Slayer do well. If the One Piece, I think they're not making a movie, but I think they're doing like a special thing for that, does well. We also got other movie announcements across the board. So you think these do well? This could be a trend for something later down the road, or if it does okay, this is just a one-time, one-year thing for
Exactly.
2024, and there's not going to be nothing later. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Um, Do you think this show comes out on current? Do you think this show comes out? This movie comes out on in theaters, or do you think it's a Crunchyroll just going straight to streaming?
Because of my earlier comment and how I think it's just going to be like a Crunchyroll thing.
Crunchyroll. Okay. Okay.
hmm Like we
Um.
might just see like Demon Slayer come out in movies or something like that.
Okay. I also think too. It is kind of funny if you think about it. There's so much. I think there's so much writing. Okay. So the movie's called the Overlord: The Holy Kingdom, anime movie premiering in 2024. Um, it's also kind of weird. I don't think I'm really excited either way. I'm looking forward to it because I like the characters in Overlord, but I also think what else can you do with the story? Because that story was kind of a very condensed, good story. So it's not like you can really redo something if you really wanted to. But nonetheless, I'm not surprised. I don't think it's too crazy to see in the realms of possibility. I do think I'll say this. I do think we are going to get at least 4 or 5 more movie announcements sometime down the road. Don't know what they are going to
Yeah,
be.
I agree with that.
I think we're going to at least get a couple more movie announcements just because things are going to be made. We're going to expand the family of the White. We're going to expand the family of Code White, which actually did really good in Japan. So if that's an indication of what's going on right now, yeah, I think we're getting at least we're getting 2. At least we're going to get 3, maybe 4. Just other movie announcements people will do just to put out on streaming or theaters and see how they do. I thought it was an interesting topic. I think me and Chris said, we're both Overlord fans. I'm not too worried about the show if they keep it fun. All the characters are fun. I just think the plot has to be interesting. If the plot's kind of boring, because it's called the Holy Kingdom, which means the only thing I'm thinking here is like the Skull dude is gonna take over a lot of the land that's left and gonna have like this great army and things like that. That's why I kind of have to see the premise in my head, and he's gonna have more people under his control.
But he might actually like show off his power. That's what I'm thinking.
Correct. And we haven't seen a lot of his power in the show either, so that's also true. But let me know what y'all think. Now let's get into the most anticipated anime for the winter season. So I'm gonna run these down real quick. This was voted on by fans, which actually I'm shocked that this guy voted on really quickly. So we have solo level class of the elite season 2 or season 3, or solo level 1 class of the elite season 3 is at 2. The dangers in my heart season 2 is at 3. Magic muscles at 4. Moonlit fantasy season 2 is at 5. Chain soldier is at 6. Bastion from the heroes party, I decided to live a quiet life in the countryside season 2 is at 7. Blue Exodus is at 8. Bottom tier character 10 season 2 is at 9. A sign of affections at 10. Out of that list, Chris, what do you think do you agree with that list, what is other ones you think are going to be really anticipated?
Okay, so there are a few key notes on that list. I'm not looking at it, but like
Mm-hmm.
I'm personally looking forward to Classroom of the Elite season 3.
I just put that on Crunchyroll. I'm gonna watch season 1 and 2 because I know season 1 and 2 is
Yeah.
really good.
Okay, so and that's one of the good ones, bro. And like I said, I don't have the list in front of me, but as far as the ones I'm looking forward to, like I know, well, I'm not going to ruin our announcement, but I do know there's another one that we plan to watch, which I'm not going to say the name because I'm not going to ruin it for everybody on the announcement.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do want to make the one that another one I'm looking forward to watching is Kaiju 8. So
Okay,
yeah.
Kaiju 8. I would throw in there. It's called Metallic Rogue. I think it's what it's like. It's based.
Mm.
That's what I'm gonna put on the list. That's at number. Where was Metallic Rogue? Because it was 21. Metallic Rogue was at 21. We also looked at a couple others that are on here. The Witch and the Beast. I thought that was really interesting. That was one I might go start watching. Because that's out right now, I think. A lot of Ikase this season. I will I will say that. Um I think my Mr. Villain takes a day off. That sounds kind of interesting. High Card season 2, I know that's been really promoted. I'm slightly I think from everything on the list, I will say there's a lot of like season 2, season 3 stuff on this list. Um I'm wondering if we're gonna get, and I don't know this for sure yet. This is gonna just my hunch. So like this winter season, we're gonna get a lot of season 2, season 3 um continuing. then for the spring season next year, we're getting a lot of new. Do you think that's going to be kind of a trend? We're going to get sequel stuff in winter and summer, and then on fall and spring we're getting the big releases. Do you think that's going to be kind of the trend we're going to get at?
No, I don't. I don't think that's going to be a trend. If it is, it wouldn't. I don't think it would be for long.
Okay.
Because I feel like a lot of the studios are picking up or trying to finish animes and mangas that were lost during the COVID seasons and whatnot.
Correct.
So yeah.
I also will say this: it is 46 total. Do you think we'll see a time where the isekai genre is going to get overbloated or bloated to a point where some of these titles for the isekai genre that they've made don't really make much sense, or they're super long?
I mean, okay, I can go without the names of the animes whose lines and names are absurdly long for no reason. Like there's no reason to have a name that long.
Yes.
So, but that's not saying that the anime that I'm watching with that name isn't good.
Like the one at 7 is called "The Banished from the Hero's Party." I decided to live a quiet life in the countryside. Season 2. That's super long, but I get the kind of thing that they're saying. The hero was banished. He decided to live a quiet life in the countryside, but something's going to happen where he doesn't live that quiet life. Get it? But that's just a long title to not just be a long title.
Exactly. Like, okay, thank you. Like, you could have called it A Hero's Run, and then I could have read the whole title through the synopsis, and I would be like,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah. That's the thing I'm kind of getting at. Me and you both like Magic and Muscles. I think Magic and Muscles will be that sleeper hit where I think it'll be in the top 5 for most of the season.
Yeah.
I kind of think Blue Exodus will also hit the top 5 a couple times. And I actually do think The Witch and the Beast, and I think the one I talked about, Metallic Rogue, I think will also hit the top 10. Metallic Road, if anybody think about it, if you've played Cyberpunk, and this is the best way to put it for most people, it's basically Cyberpunk world just following two girls, and kind of what they're getting at is they are in this world and they have to. I'm guessing what they're gonna try. I haven't seen the zombies yet, but I'm thinking what's gonna be like in Cyberpunk world. But they have all these like metal gadgets and arms and things. So if you're into that kind of stuff, or seeing the game Cyberpunk, I think that will be a fun premise. And I think if they do it right, it will be very fun and something different from the actual Cyberpunk show. But I think something more interesting with that style stuff. But let's get into the two we're going to be watching. I mentioned one already, Magic Muscles. That one's just funny. It's one of the funnier ones. It's if you like a good comedy anime, they do a very good job with that. And they do a very good job building up this suspense. Um so and then the other one we're doing is Solo Level. And I'll ask Chris this in a second. I wanted to do it because it's gotten a lot of hype, but I'm also worried that's gotten too much hype.
Mm.
It's gotten too much hype. And the only reason I say that because I think it got a lot of the marketing from Anime Corner. It got a lot of marketing on Crunchyroll. It got a lot of marketing on just like news sites talking about it, Twitter. I'm slightly worried because it's one of those ones where I don't remember from last season. Do you remember what last season and most anticipated thing was, Chris? Do you kind of have a hunch? I'm
The
gonna
last
assume
thing I remember, I think, was Demon Slayer.
was the most anticipated. Okay, so I know JDK was up there too for this past season. JDK was up there as this past season's like most anticipated because what we were
But
getting
at,
into
but,
Shibuya
but
arc,
at
but I
that
don't
point,
think
everybody kind of knew that wasn't coming out till late in the year like it did.
correct. So I'm gonna ask this, Chris. Do you think it's gonna be super hard for solo level. Solo's gonna have to keep up with the hype and make sure they can show off what they've done with the show.
Well, so in my personal opinion, the producers in these shows, they are hyping these shows because they've already read the manga, they've seen the data, they know that hey, we and you know animes have been produced from manga so many times for so long now, they
Yep,
can probably say, well, if this manga sells out this many copies as a manga, we can probably get this many views out of an anime.
yep.
So therefore, they can go and base their whole production strategy and everything based off of that. So with that being said, do you really think all these companies will put their stamp on a name if they didn't think it was going to sell?
No, I don't think that's not necessarily. I also think too when it's something untested.
Yeah.
So solo levels untested in the sense that it's the first season of it. The idea behind it is interesting. I just wonder if they understand what they're trying to do with that. And I know what you're I know people are gonna throw it back at me. And I know what's about to be said. Demon Slayer was untested.
Mm-hmm.
JJK was untested. I can even go even further, like Hell's Paradise, Chainsaw Man, which we are getting a Chainsaw Man movie event after Chainsaw Man went off. Kind of didn't start off very well for MAPPA, but they're thinking we can try and move and see what happens. But at the same time, those were established brands because the manga did well, and
Mm-hmm.
we heard about the manga. I haven't heard about this manga, and no offense, I think if there is a manga out for this, I probably assume it's really good. But I
So
think go ahead,
I think
go ahead.
the unique thing that needs to be noted about Solo Level is that this isn't your traditional manga, or it isn't also not your traditional anime. This
Correct. It's not
anime is in fact coming from South Korea.
correct.
And even though it is a manga by all Eastern standards, it's pronounced differently like manhwa
Yes, it
in
is.
South.
Yes, it is.
So so that is a good, that's something that should be noted, and why feel so much caution towards it.
And here's the other part. Here's the thing that gives me actually some cause for pause and actually gives me some sense that it might do well. And it's a show I'm going to mention because we've watched it. Jinlock. Here's the funny thing. Jinlock
Hmm.
was American made and American produced. And the fact when it first came out, it was only in English. It was English, then
Hmm.
got translated to Japanese. Was put on
Yes,
HBO Max.
sir.
Did very well on HBO Max. I don't know if we're getting a season 3 anytime soon, but when we are, I think that's one where, hey, that's a good idea. I think that makes sense. And the person who did it, Michael B. Jordan, knew what he was doing because he's been in movies. He has the team behind him, everything like that. Good example of that as well. Ruby. Ruby is one of the most well produced animes who was done by Rooster Teeth, who's out of the state of Texas and knew what they were, and it has blown up like gangbusters.
Hmm.
So it's not the realm of possibility. So I'm not like too seriously like surprised if it does work out. Here's the thing I think that will do though, if it does work out, if it if that does happen, if this soul level out South Korea works out very well, would I want to see a company do that's out of maybe England or Portugal or Mexico? Yes, absolutely. Because then you have other people from other parts of the world trying to make anime in their own language or in their using their resources, and it'd be something different. Um,
Well
like
then,
this.
Brandon.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, then that causes another question. At what point can another country call their animated series an anime?
But yeah, you're right. Here's the problem: we have animated cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
We have animated movies. So the term is not just set for just anime. And yes, would I want to see every country do it? No. But if you told me you were gonna do like a lucha libre style animated show built in wrestling, I'm down. You gonna tell me you can do a spy thriller based in England? I'm down.
That's James Bond.
Like James Bond, but you know what I mean. Like we did one just in an anime verse using like Spy and Family is the base for it, and that's what Spy and Family basically is.
Yo,
That's what
yo,
Spy and
wait,
Family.
time out though.
Yeah,
Wouldn't a James Bond anime go fresh? Wait a minute.
correct. Yeah. So like we have all these resources of movies they've done. Nacho Libre. You have James Bond. You could literally do really fun ideas using those either IP or using them as basis for a new show out of these countries, and I think it'd be really fun. I'm not saying if Solo Level does well out of Korea, South Korea, I'm down. I just think it's going to be interesting because I think it's interesting because Japan's always cornered the market in anime, but I think now you're getting to see other countries try to add their hand,
Yeah,
and I think that's going to be the one thing. That's the one thing I think people are going to be excited for. If Solo Level does well, I think you'll see more stuff come out of South Korea. I think Solo Level can go run if it runs well this first season. This next season, they'll do multiple seasons. Won't shock me. Um, but yeah, those are two we're doing. Let me know what y'all think because I think it's a good problem to have when you have so much good. Like if you have something that's been hyped and you can tell that's been taken care of with care and attention, and they're trying something different. Cool. I like the premise called Solo Level. I like the premise that it's Ikase, but I think it's also like, oh, a different country's trying this. Let's see what they do, how they make it.
I like the way you said that earlier. Yeah,
What?
when you have so much goodness, when
Yeah,
you do
yeah.
good and you got so much goodness, like, ooh,
Yeah,
come
I
on,
do. Yep.
come on, Pastor
Uh,
Brandon.
but so we're gonna have two questions tonight. I'm gonna let Chris start off, and this question was actually pretty. We talked about before we started streaming, before we started the podcast. His question is kind of interesting. Kind of deals with what kind of we're kind of getting to with Soul Level a little bit, and then I have my question that deals with JJK, and mine is kind of weird, but I'll explain why. Chris, start off with your question.
So my question to you and our audience is the how far or how long back can a show reuse animation?
When you say reuse, do you mean actually using the exact same thing or tweaking it enough to where it's still their own thing, but they've used the assets from a certain thing?
Well, I'll put it this way. If I do a 5 second scene and I can in an AI search can look through a whole bunch of other shows and animes and find more than 3 shows that have reused that same scene sequence, that is what I'm talking about.
Okay. I think it depends. It depends on if you're doing it out of inspiration or it depends if you're doing it out of just taking the work. Ultimately, for me, if you're using that inspiration and kind of working upon that inspiration, I'm cool with that. And here's the other thing we talked about this before, so I'll talk about it now. With games, with movies, with TV, there's nothing new under the sun, and that's been a thing since the dawn of making movies, making TV, making video games. Assets have been reused a bunch of times. Assets been used to make nostalgia things. In games, they do it a bunch. Assets are probably used across the board in games a lot more, Also, you see nods to older games too. So they've done nods to older Mario games. They've done nods to older like Pac-Man games. You see nods to um, Tetris. You see nods to all these different things. By the way, we're watching Shangri-La, which is coming back in a couple weeks, and they do a couple nods themselves, even to the point where in the game store in that show, it's not specifically Nintendo, but you can see the Mario Kart background in one of the shots. You see Mario Kart, Mario Odyssey in one of the on the game case. So I'm not surprised. Like you're trying to make the game shot look authentic, so you're using these blurred out images. Yeah, it 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 works to make it works to make a show seem different and similar, but ultimately to me, as long as the plot and the characters and everything else are different, the assets can be reused. If you're using a bunch of assets, like so many assets where I can just tell you pulled them from other things, then yeah, there's a problem. But if I really can't tell, and it's like, okay, you did a couple things, fine. Chris, what do you think about that? Because for me, it's a small there's a small line, and that line is very it moves a lot.
Well, so I believe that good things can be reused and made better,
Yes,
especially with the advancement of technology.
correct.
So I can so as long as it's done well and in good taste, I can agree. However, I mean, probably because nobody would even care or even notice, I would like to see the sequence, the original people who put it together be recognized in the credits.
That I would agree with you, but also I don't think that
Mhm.
ever's going to be done. I don't think that's ever going to be done
Probably
because
not,
that
but I can be.
you absolutely should, but I think it's ever going to be done because I don't think nobody's going to go back to that original work and really do that. And I don't want to get
True,
into
but
the
oh,
go ahead.
never mind. Go ahead. I was gonna say
No.
maybe not, but at least it can be noted that
Oh
hey,
yeah.
we this
Oh yeah.
team did this, and or even give credit to the original anime.
Correct. I'd be okay with that. Like the downside of doing that, it's the old copyright law, which copyright law in America is strong. Like you can't use Disney characters in a film you try to make. So, like, I wonder if that's the same rules for anime, or is anime kind of like the don't have the same copyright rules, and you can kind of use assets, but you can't blatantly use characters or things because assets can't be probably copyrighted under rules, but the characters themselves can be. It's a thing. Like I think also if you're gonna really do that, the one thing we both can probably think about is actually JJK. We watched the episode a couple weeks ago where they did a snow scene, they did wolves running into a fort to somebody, and they did something else back to back to back, and it was like literally you said they ripped this from this and this. I'm like, yeah, they did. It's kind of bad, but yeah, that's kind of what they did. But it looks like the exact same thing you'd see like in Studio Ghibli films or just things that are done prior.
Exactly.
I would want to see like crediting to other companies, but I also know at that point you're kind of giving yourself up like, oh yeah, we borrowed this. That's the other problem. I don't think you would ever want to. I don't know if you want to admit to that. That's the thing. I don't think people will ever admit to using other assets very often. But hey,
Well, in school we used to call that plagiarizing, but
yeah, that's the problem.
so I won't judge others. I'll put it that way.
I think if it's so blatant, they've kind of looked at other things and used something similar. Yeah, but it's also like good example. I remember the Fortnite dances they added to Fortnite. Some of the dances got
Oh
kind
God, that
of
is the most annoying thing in life.
yeah. Some of the Fortnite dances had got copyrighted because the person who actually did the dance didn't get credited for it. But then there was a whole thing because Fortnite paid out a bunch of money for it. So there are certain rules behind it, but you can't copyright a dance. In this case, the original person who owned the dance all this kind of stuff. So it gets weird. It gets gray area because then it's like, somebody on the internet popularized that dance for TikTok or something, and then the dance got into something else. Yeah. But I like the question. It's actually really interesting question. It's one of those harder questions to answer because it's just been a thing for movies and TV for so long. It's never been a thing where they're gonna actually admit they've plagiarized something else or used other assets. And yeah, like Star Wars is a good example of that. There's also other things that are a good example of that.
Well, if you want to be perfectly honest, everybody should give credit to the idea of cell phones to the creator of Star Trek.
Yeah, pretty much. This, yeah, things like that. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
y'all did it before cell phones were a huge of a thing as they are now. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. It's actually a really good question, a really interesting one. So now we'll get to mines. And as we're getting this question, get up JJK episode 47, and we'll get to that in a minute. So my question kind of deals with JJK, and it's a weird one. So I saw this on Instagram. The person that brought up this video on Instagram, I read it to Chris because I just saw it for like 2 seconds, and it really was. It didn't spark my interest until after I watched it. But it was talking about Meme. Hold on, hold with me for Chris, hold for a second, Chris, because it's going to be kind of deep. So let me get through all this. Basically,
Okay.
the person was talking about that Meme fans love Meme, the way the character is, the way she moves, the way she looks, her demeanor, her just aura. Get all that. So then he was talking about the fact that in this Shibuya arc, the episode where we see her the last time, and how that she talks. They doesn't talk about it in the show, I think proper, but she has a fight with Ghetto. They do mention in the show that the Ghetto and her fight didn't go great. She has Yu Yu uses little doppelganger thing, and they leave. They go to Malaysia, I think, where they say they are. The person does say they're in Malaysia in the anime, which I didn't know that, but that makes sense. It looks like Paris, but it probably is somewhere closer to Japan. Um, and then they kind of said fans kind of turned on Mei Mei for a bit. And I'm like, why? And I'm thinking why the person talking said why. So I didn't know this, and I think you didn't know this either. Yu Yu is her brother, technically her brother, which I'm like, you what? Okay, explain. When the person said that, I was like, how can you know that's her brother? We don't even know the
Remind me
relationship
who
with
Yu is again.
the guy carrying her giant axe.
Is her little brother.
It's her little brother. But I'm like,
But that's
the,
common in anime though.
but the show doesn't mention it fully in any way, shape, or form. And it was interesting because then the person said in the Instagram video, he was like, well, think about the fact that she's fully bare in a bed with her younger brother and they're about to sleep together. I'm like, you're pulling a stretch. And then they feel like turned off the fans because the way they've made her. And he does mention that that Mei Mei is very money oriented, money driven. She'll do anything for money. She will basically sell the stuff she needs to get money. We know that because we saw the computer, we saw all the stocks, we saw that. My question to you then, Chris, does that change your mind about the character? Because for me, I didn't care because I'm like, they did it to set up the story, and they set the story very well where they have been close since the beginning. So it doesn't really matter to me that people kind of felt like, hey, they did this weird thing that doesn't make much sense.
Okay. I want to try to break this down in 3 points.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Point one is if you were at least 9 years old, right? Because like let's just say you're 9,
Mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm.
got a sense of self, right? And that is your older sister. She's a kick-ass sorcerer who's beating everybody, and you trust her completely,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So, regardless of how much money she has, would you stay in a hotel room with her?
Well, yeah.
Okay, so in a hotel room, they may have one or two beds depending on the hotel.
Hold on, I can barely hear you. Get closer to the mic.
I said,
There you
depending
go.
on depending on the hotel, they're saying that there could be only be one or two beds available.
Yeah.
So, and then I remember that scene. There is a space in between them.
Yes, there is. Which I also thought about. I'm like, there's a
Wait a
space.
minute
So
though. Wait a minute.
yeah,
That's
go
that.
ahead.
That was my first point. Okay. My
Mhm.
second point is that I don't know at what age we stop, but at some point, almost every man has slept in the bed with their sister at some point.
Yeah.
Point two. My last point to make is that this is a freaking animated series, and everything about this show is a fantasy. So if that's where your mind went, sir, then you need to get your head checked.
But it's also weird to me when they said he said fans in general were annoyed by that scene. I'm just like, wait. I do you remember some fans were not particularly happy by the way that scene went? That wasn't the first thought of that scene for me because the only thing they showed that I remember correctly, like you say, the space. There's a space in between. There's also his reaction when she gets up and walks over and answers that phone call, and he's kind of pissed. But also at the same point, um, I thought it was interesting because the other thing I remember they mentioned, she mentioned kind of like having that fight, and we don't see it. The only thing I ever said about that scene, I wish we saw part of the fight. I wish we saw at least like a couple minutes, and then cut. Like show us a flashback of the fight, then cut to them in the hotel room. I'm cool with that. The rest of the stuff beyond that was all story stuff. Like she's saying she did all solar socks, she did all this stuff. I thought it was really interesting. So I'm like, maybe as a character is supposed to be that powerful femme fatale that can pretty much do anything and she get her way, but she also understands how to get her way. And that's the thing they put out to this whole most of the series. Outside of that, the rest of the stuff I could care less. And even the thing with Yu's been one of her closest people the whole time through the story. And they've also showed that to the point where the man was willing to die for her. Yeah, I don't know what people are getting at. When I saw it, I thought it was really kind of weird. I was like, it's it's a stretch. It's like a super stretch. And it's also not something that I would really think about unless you really are knowing of what they were trying to do. And the other part was, I think the other big thing with Yu's been loyal to her the whole time, and loyalty was to the point where he respected what she said. He did everything to the point of like literally, like I say, gonna take the die for her, die for her. But at the same point, he was not overly understanding. He understood what this meant, so he still had his own thinking and own understanding of what everything was going on. I'm gonna ask you something, Chris, because I thought about this. Do you think a show ever jumps the shark in the sense where people overanalyze something to the point where people are very upset when they kind of do things that don't really fit the characteristics of the character? Did you hear the question, Chris?
Say it one more time for me.
Oh, no worries. Do you think fans can over jump the shark in the sense that they overanalyze something to the point where the characteristics of a character is odd, even though the way the mangaka or the animators made the character still fits within the manga and the show, and it's not feeling like it's overly weird.
Oh, absolutely. Because I'm one of those people. I do it from time to time, and I need to be pulled back from it. Absolutely.
But I think this is super jumping the shark in a sense with Meme. Because I've never thought funny thing about Meme, I thought she was a very cool character. I think she's always cool. And this is one weird thing, because even from the beginning, they made Meme seem like a really cool character when we first met her as a young kid. And the funny thing is, I think people forget May's always been the kind of calculated person. May's always had her the way she thinks about things up higher than most. That's not going to change. The day that changes, the day that gets kind of odd. And if you're kind of weirded out by the fact there's that whole scene when they're in the bed talking and then she just gets up and answers the phone, it's like that's May. That's the way she does things. She reminds me, and it's a weird comparison, so take it for a sec. Take it for a second. She reminds me of Lisa or Carice in Demo Death Play. One of the first ever episodes we saw of Carice was in a hotel room with her some of her ladies that she works at the bar with, just having a nice evening. But yet she was the most calculated. She understood what she was doing, and she's always in control. Yeah, yeah, that's not surprising to me. But
Exactly.
let me know what y'all think about that. I thought it was an interesting Instagram. I do think people do that kind of stuff to kind of get what fans. I think a lot of fans probably did think that, but they didn't want to. I think a lot of fans thought about the Meme thing at the last couple episodes, and they probably really did want to say something about it. But I think a lot of fans were kind of just like on Twitter saying it or things like that. I don't follow a lot of anime Twitter, so I don't really get a chance to see it sometimes. But that one had a lot of comments on it. And the Instagram post, so I remember people talked about it. But ultimately, enjoy what you like. I don't think that's going to affect the character or affect how you see things. Just be surprised, be happy that you're getting a very cool thing out of something, and that you can't overanalyze everything. But all that to say, let's get into this finale of JJK. This episode, ladies and gentlemen, does some very weird things. We'll get into it all, but we get almost every character coming back in some way, shape, or form, except for one. Maybe it doesn't come back in this episode, but I think she is mentioned by one of the characters. And two, they're leaving us on a cliffhanger to start the next arc. And this next arc is gonna be fun. We'll mention the arc at the end as we're doing the review. But this ending episode was fun, interesting, left you in a place where you're like, oh, we've already gotten dark. We're about to get more dark. and it's not even like they said this was the darkest arc. I don't think Stark's gonna compare what they're about to do next. Because next arc is even more weird. And it's about to get a lot more fighty. But I will say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get going. Chris, you ready?
Ready.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. And they kick off with the intro. That's the mark of the show. Usually we get something before that. Nope, they just we're gonna kick off with the intro and let's ride.
Yep.
So by the way, everything in these scenes, I think except for the Gojo stuff, we've seen for the most part.
Yep.
I'm like, wow, they've actually. That's one thing I will say with openings. If you're gonna show us a bunch of stuff, make sure you kind of show us everything you're gonna from the opening. It's kind of hard to do, but at least give us some indication.
Nah, because then it wouldn't be a surprise.
No, but tease it in the opening, but make sure you do show it in the show eventually. That's what I mean. Like
True.
you're not gonna just leave it as a tease. Who's Lori?
Good question. I'm not sure.
That's not the spirit, I'm assuming, but that's either. Yeah, she mentions Japan could be a world power with just cursed spirits. That's kind of
Yep.
dangerous. And she says she's buying time, but yet you're giving him a bigger plan than you're giving something much bigger than he could do. And yet, why are you telling him this?
I think she was telling him why her plan is better.
That's true. Yeah, you didn't know about that? He absorbed him about like 5 minutes ago before he came over. Idle transfiguration. Basically. Jeez, now. Oh, and he woke up his sister.
You still hear me? Okay.
Huh?
Let's make sure you still hear me.
I can. And now you woke up his sister. You took it to Fuchigoro's sister with the mark. Because she was already a curse. She already had cursed energy in her, right? She was kind of like a ghost spirit.
Right.
Okay.
So he's also unleashed new sorcerers as well.
Correct. Oh, this is gonna be bad. Poison. Yeah. The world of oh jeez.
Just released all that cursed energy into the world.
Yes, he did.
And that's why he fell asleep. He's like,
Correct. At the same point, I don't know what they don't know what they're about to get into.
and the future of this is Chainsaw Man. Ah.
Why do you say that?
It's only because this takes place in the 1990s, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
But Chainsaw Man takes place a few years later.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, because he says he wants the golden age of jiu-jitsu to back, which is something from like the early 70s he talks about. So it's like, yeah, it's been a while. There's only one park of Tokyo where it's
So
not light.
and it's growing.
Yes, it is growing. So they're basically trying to figure out, do we evacuate over 5 million people or what do we do? But at the same time, they're also like, well, we need to get the government and the prime minister out here first. Y'all, do something. Or at least tell the people about the cursed spirits. By the way, Chris, how'd that hole get bigger in less than a couple minutes?
Man, that's the cursed energy just spreading.
Jesus. Yep. Oh.
Now, if you just saw that, if you seen that on live TV,
I'm running. If I'm actually the reporter, I'm running.
but
Like,
Brandon,
I'm
where
not.
you gonna run to?
That's also true. That's also true. Oh. Oh, that's what that. Okay, I get that now.
And it's still growing.
Yeah. Jeez. And this gets even creepier. This little girl. By the way, why would this grocery store even be open? It looks like there's nobody
It's
in there.
not. It's not. She broke in,
She broke it.
and they had no. Man, I don't know why they chose to make that scene look so good. See,
Say that
the
again. You're
background,
kind of cut.
the background scene looks almost 3D.
Yes, it does. They like the bottles and like bags and things look like they're actually there on the shelves, which is actually kind of cool. I like how they did that. So you
Like
can
I
see
feel like
the
I can walk up to it and almost grab it.
grab it. Yeah, that's the thing. They made it feel like it's real. Don't walk out that door. If I saw
Yeah,
that.
those cameras.
Even the balls on the shelf, you can see like they look like more 3D dimensions than actually just 2D things. Don't go out that door. Oh, oh, that's creepy. I love how it mimics what she said. What about my mother and father? And then she says those two lines. Then it mimics that saying from her. Oh man. Oh, don't. Oh. Yeah, that little girl should have not run out there. I would have stayed in that building. And here's the main character from JJK
Hidden,
Zero.
hidden inventory. series.
Yep.
Which once again makes everything relevant.
Yeah, they just made everything canon now. That's basically what you just did. Okay, he says Rika. So that's the spirit from Zero. But didn't
Yep.
but didn't that spirit get undone after he ended Zero?
And or so we thought.
Oh, are we okay. All right.
And now I need to go back and watch the movie again.
Yeah, that's the thing I was thinking about. Do we need to watch the movie again? Jeez. Are you really intend to thank me? Get to the point.
Right.
Like, I now understand I obeyed your orders. Notes from Jujutsu headquarters. Gojo survived, confirmed he would inherit and declared the incentive of his descendants. Or Ghetto also demands that free him. Oh, great.
Because they're both their teachers.
Yeah. And one last shot of the giant hole.
Yeah, it's still spreading.
Slowly, but still spreading.
Mm.
And then we see somebody running on the street. Who is it?
It's Yuti Denari.
And why this spot? We don't ever get the reason.
You know, this is actually the ending sequence.
Oh, it is. It's right. Where we see him on the bridge in the openings, in the opening scene. That's right. You're right about that. And he walks away, looking out to the distance. Oh, jeez. Yep. That was the finale of JJK episode 43, season 2, part 2.
47. Oh,
So we're gonna go through like I do what we do with about Death Play. I'm gonna go through the full thing because this is kind of interesting how they did this. We start this off where we left off. It's the girl that's from season 2, the beginning of season 2, Hidden Inventory, and Gojo started talking back and forth. Basically, they start talking. She tries to buy time. She's like, "We need to buy time for a person." She talks about the guy from the movie Zero, the black-haired dude, the black dude with the whip, who lives in France. She also talks about the fact if you really want to do this, Gojo, you know what you can do? You could Japan could be a world power. They have so much cursed energy in this place. We could take over the world, literally. I'm like, why are you mentioning it to the guy who's trying to take over, who's trying to get rid of every cursed spirit and cursed thing and make everybody sorcerers? That's not great. I'll continue though. And she's like, where is Mojito? She's like, where's Mojito? Where is he at? Mojito got captured by Ghetto about 5 minutes ago. Ichidori doesn't like say how long it took, but he said he's intimidated Mojito. Then Ghetto mentions the fact that if I wanted to do all this, why are you asking me now? Like you were already planning on doing it, so why are you scared of it now? And she's kind of like, well, because she doesn't really give an answer. She's kind of just like, can you fight yet? Can you fight yet? Ichidori, can you fight? He's like, no, I can barely stand right now. So, Chris, what do you think about this first section where they just kind of talk and they're not really doing anything? It's just a back and forth talk where they're going back and forth to each character, kind of giving what they're thinking about.
well, I mean, the whole scene, they're kind of talking about each other's ideals, which is,
I can barely hear you.
can you hear me now?
A little bit, not that much better.
Can you hear me now?
Again,
So, with this being said, in the intro, they're kind of explaining each other's plans and how they different. Like, the evil ghetto, his plan is more so, well, I just want to unleash everything, and whoever survives are the warriors, and whoever else is what's left. And she's like, well, my plan is better because at least Japan would be a superpower with it, but so that way we can take out and beat the superpower, quote unquote. And so, but they was like, well, oh well, my plan is going with my way anyway. And here we go.
so then she mentions Mojito. She mentions a fact to him. She asks about Mojito. Ichidori says Mojito's been assimilated by Ghetto a long time ago. He got the power. But then they also talk about something kind of interesting. Ichidori, or you see Ghetto do auto transfiguration, and he makes this giant cursed image on in the sky, and it's basically for to wake up these thousands and thousands of sorcerers and other people to use for his own for just making chaos. And as that's happening, they're having more of a talk. Ghetto mentions the fact that since Mojito fought with Ichidori so much, he got so strong. And eventually, once he got that strong, his power was immense. That's why he absorbed him. He wanted to do the same thing to Volcano Dude, but Volcano Dude gets killed by Sukuna. We see that. Um, so then they kind of have more of a talk. We see they cut to a hospital bed with a Fushiguro name on it, which is each uh, Megami's sister. And they show the sister because the sister has this mark, and this mark is part of this transformation where she was in a deep sleep. She has a spirit thing, and she finally wakes up, and now she can go out to do rampage. He mentions the fact that Ichiro has all the fingers. He mentions the fact from the guy from Zero, or it's not the guy from Zero, the guy from season 1, had the ability to use cursed energy, but he didn't really have a focus on it. but now I've done it with this new brain and all these cursed things. And he opens up the seal, and the seal breaks everything. Chris, what do you think about this section? Because this section gets kind of like, oh, he had a plan all along.
But so again, that comes from after the conversation he was having with old girl. He was like, "Nah, you see this seal right here, the one that I just broke. See, this is one that just unleashes everything. And since here that I've already broke it, yeah, it's about time I take my leave." Like he was so smooth with it.
Yeah, he's literally about to walk off stage left at this point.
Right.
He's not sticking around. So we see Fukuchiru's sister wake up. She kind of sees what's going on. The little transfer idol situation is still there. The girl mentions about Tengen. She thought this was a Tengen barrier. No, it is not. It is technically uh this is technically a um this is technically a thing that Ghetto did from learning from other things. She starts laughing. She's like, can you fight Itadori? He's like, no, I still can't fight. The girl that had all the ice barriers up finally kind of loses the power to hold him because she said she used too much of the reverse technique to heal her body. You see rain fall down. They kind of just start talking again. Everybody's kind of out of it. Then we get to the part that I think really hits the home. So then we still have some more talking, kind of figure out people. A lot of people are like, can anybody fight? Can anybody stand? And then Ghetto opens up a portal with all of these cursed spirits. Literally opens a portal to so many cursed spirits, and he's holding the prism in his hand. And he says, I want to get back to the golden age of jiu-jitsu. And Itadori, I hope you get stronger because I'll be back for you. Itadori kind of screams out into the Ghetto, and he makes his leave. Chris, what do you think about this section? Because this section just kind of gets ramped up farther and farther, and we finally see what Ghetto's trying to do.
Well, see, at this point, we just kind of see everything being enacted. Like you realize that the good guys have lost.
Yes.
And it's one of those helpless situations. Like, what do you do now?
Yes, it is. So then we see a giant hole form in the city, or a small hole form in the city in the middle of Tokyo. And as we get through the episode, they'll show you why this hole is kind of important, where he unleashed all those spirits. This next session is kind of interesting. It's just people talking about what's going on. We see a gentleman and his cat kind of he's petting, and then his wife's kind of talking about things. The government don't know what they want to do. We need to save the prime minister. Do we need to do this, that, and the other? And they're kind of just talking about it. We see them later. Then we hear people talking about, hey, do we not sacrifice, but do we evacuate 5 million people, or what do we do next? We see a baby in a crib and parents talking about what's going on. We see other shots basically up to this point. The big thing about this section, and I'm not going to go through all of it because it's kind of the same thing over and over again. Eventually, the whole thing is: do we tell people? Do we don't? Do we try to evacuate people? What do we do? Finally, the big thing in this section, I'm going to mention it here because it's kind of interesting. These two girls are sitting at a table one's looking at the TV, the other's looking at her. And they're watching the news, and we see what's happening with everything on the news. And then you see the explosion happen on the news of this building explode, the blood, all that kind of stuff. The girl watching the TV, which I didn't know that was a girl watching TV until they cut back. She's looking at the TV and sees what's happening. The feed cuts out. Then we show back from the angle from the other room where they're in the house, and the spirit gets to them and just literally eats both of them and kills them. And then we see the hole get bigger. So, Chris, what do you think about this section where we're just kind of hear people talking, hear people trying to figure out what they want to do? Do you think they were kind of trying to figure out, do it in a way where it's not going to panic people, but also not scare people, but they have to do something?
So this is one of those things where politics slows down what actually what things
Mm-hmm. Speak a little bit louder, by the way.
Hold up.
Yeah, there you go.
I was saying that this is one of those things where the politics and politicians waited last minute to do something that should have been done immediately, where natural things should have happened. Look, I would say like,
Yeah,
look. I know there's no time to panic, but everybody needs to evacuate immediately. There is a release of cursed energy and is killing everybody. And then
that's
just
the
let everything from there happen naturally.
that's the part that I think is kind of weird. We get to this point where they're like, "Do we tell people about the cursed energy that's around the city? Do we don't? Do we evacuate?" I'm like, "You should evacuate people first, and then you could tell them after they evacuate. Fine." But like, they slow their feet for a lot of this part of the episode, and I guess why that's not going through all of it. There's ports in here where the point that really gets the high point is when the two girls die in their own house. Like that gets the point of like, oh yeah, stuff has hit the fan bad. And then this next section is so creepy. So we see this like street corner, and then they show this convenience store, and this little girl's in this convenience store. We don't see the girl yet. We finally cut to the girl. The girl's on the floor eating some rice and things as like frozen dinner thing, and then she sees the door open, and she kind of weirded out by the door. She hears a voice finally. The voice says, "Come," and she's like, "Huh?" Doesn't say anything. It says, "Come again." She asks about the mom and dad, and the boy says, "I do have your mom and dad, your teacher, your younger brother, all this stuff." And then she's like, "Wait, I don't have a younger brother, and I don't like my teacher." So and then the voice says again, "You don't have a younger brother, you don't like your teacher, but I have everybody else." She walks out the door. The this th- this this thing is about to eat her. And then next thing we see the guy from JJK Zero literally comes back and stabs this thing in the like neck or top of the head to get it incapacitated. And then he talks to the girl, sees that her shoes have been worn a lot. She's been walking around, and he says, "Do you walk around a lot?" He goes, she doesn't say anything, but she kind of can tell that he knows it. Then then the spirit that he had from Zero literally takes out this thing, and he goes, be more careful, please. And he didn't. She didn't like. He's like, be careful, don't do that, but take it out. Then we kind of cut to like just scenes of a park and things, and kind of more talking. The last thing we see here is the girl that was helping their team. I think she gets away, and she has a plan for herself to figure out what she wants to do next. Before we talk about the ending, Chris, what do you think about the little girl scene? We see the guy from Zero, and the fact we get the reveal that the spirit from Zero that was supposed to be at rest is still around.
So this whole scene was a really kind of like a reintroduction of the character because everybody kind
I
of
can't hear you again, by the way.
this is like a reintroduction of a character too because this was also because we all thought that he had died too. So it's like
Yeah.
how is he even alive? See now there's more questions and new mysteries that are ready to be introduced into the new season.
Well, and here's the thing about this part, which I thought was interesting. They do mention the fact in Zero he went to Paris and trained under the black guy. So if that's the case, they don't mention if he just stays in Paris for a long time and then he just comes back randomly here. But they do mention in this next section we're going to talk about a lot of something else he did while he was out there. So I'm about to get into that. Let's get into it. So he's at this elder meeting where technically I think either the elder we haven't seen this room before. We've seen something similar of this room. And he's talking to the elders, and they'll say, "Good job, thank you. You know, we need to do thank you." And he's like, "Why are you thanking me? Get to the point." He's like, "Well, you have done a lot of things with cursed spirits, but at the same time, um, we want you to make a pact with me." And he's like, "We need to do something." He's like, "Do what? I've done everything. I've killed a bunch of cursed spirits. I've done all this before." And they go, "You can make a pact with me. You can do whatever you want, and I will go kill each Dory." And that's what he is tasked to do. He is tasked to go kill Ichidori. Then we find out from a lot of different things at the end of this that one, Ghetto was still supposed to be executed. Now his execution is still there. Two, that anybody tries to go get Gojo automatically is a criminal and also will be sentenced, well, not sentenced to death, but under as a criminal basically. Their teacher is sentenced to death. Itadori's special special permission, not permission, but special thing is revoked, and that the guy coming back from zero is now his special executioner. On top of this all, we see the circle one more time. And this circle is getting this circle has gotten about to the size of like a small city to this point. And then on top of it all, we end this off with two different things. We end this off with the road at the end. This road shows somebody walking on it. The person that's walking on it is Itadori. Chris pointed this out. It's in the opening sting. We see him on this road, but then we see him walk away from it. So he stands there, rubs his hands together, and then claps with his hands above his head. And then the next thing you see is all these cursed spirits come out of the water. And now we have it's a game on across the board. This next arc is gonna be insane. Chris, so what do you think about this last section? Everything we kind of hear about now. And what do you think about the guy from Zero going after Ichidori and being his executioner?
So this whole scene was really unique because we didn't know where this was gonna go, and so now Itadori is being haunted like he's just another cursed spirit, but it looked like he might actually be using the cursed spirits to train, which is really unique.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And also, can you hear me okay, by the way?
It's going in and out though, but you spoke a little bit louder that time, so kind of keep that loudness if you can. I will say this though, the elders seem like they are scared. The elders seem like they are so scared to see what's going to happen now. Here's the funny thing: the elders had started all this. The elders didn't kill Ichidori right away. They left him alive because Gojo said, "Hey, we can leave him alive. We can get all the Fuguna fingers, and then you can kill him." On top of that, Gojo is the most powerful sorcerer in Jiu-Jitsu in Japan and in the Jiu-Jitsu High. So keeping him in the prison is not going to be a great idea. Once he finally comes out, he's going to be mad as all get out. You had an opportunity to kill Geto once, and you didn't, and now you need to kill him again. The principal's an innocent bystander, but like you said, Chris, the principal taught both of them, so that makes more sense. Yeah, this ending started this story is kind of like, elders, you got scared, and now you want to reverse everything you tried to do. Why do you think the elders got so scared, Chris?
I mean, look at what's happening. There, I mean, everything is going crazy, absolutely insane. Japan, like traditional modern life in Japan, is over.
Yeah, that is very true. Traditional modern life in Japan is technically over. So the next arc for this series is called the Colon Game arc. And it literally happens right at the end of this arc. Like literally they tease it here. It's the start. This part is like the start of the arc. Basically, the basic premise of this next arc is it's a giant game. It's like the Hunger Games, basically. But for cursed spirits and cursed energy people, and you have to rack up points. The more points you rack up, the better off you are going to stay alive, all this kind of things. Even so, Fuchiguri's sister is going to be part of this, and she don't want to kill. We'll find out later. But throughout this whole arc, it's going to be kind of like a deadly game, and they really play off the fact that it's going to not be pretty. So that's why I said at the beginning, this probably is the darkest arc and the most bloody. Oh, now it's about to get 10 times worse. Because now, if you really wanted to do more fights, you can do a lot more fights here. And then my second question, Chris, why would the guy from Zero do anything for the elders when elders also wanted to kill him in Zero when he was having the cursed spirit, the cursed lady?
Now that is a good question because now that's all the mystery part. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know how this dude is here. This dude's actually communicating with these people. Like, dude, Like you look like a whole trader right now.
You do, and I'm not gonna spoil anything from the arc because I did. The only reason I know when the arc starts because it starts like literally at like 160-36 or something. It's a short arc. It seems like a short arc based on what I saw. It's a shorter arc, but there are some twists and turns in the arc. And the only thing I'm also kind of feels kind of weird now. The rest of the characters are left alive. Panda, all the classmates from the other school, the girl, everybody who's left alive is just gonna go away now. I don't think there's gonna be really follow up for them, which is kind of like odd. But it also feels like whoa, that seems like there should have been a last one more episode for this. Do you think that should have been the case?
No, I actually felt like they left it off on a strong point because it's a pretty strong cliffhanger. You know,
Okay, okay. Why do you think that is? Sorry to cut you off.
now that might still be the maybe the politics and everything that's going on around Mappa.
Yeah, yeah. Um, the other thing too, do you think we see Itadori go on this massive training arc to the point where he's gonna be so powerful, he's gonna be hard to stop?
Maybe.
Oh god. And yet you've also teased me with the guy from Zero, the main character from Zero, and the main character of this of these art of this manga having a fight. Do I want to see that? Yes, please. Do I want to see
Yep.
the one get? Do I want to see the one get hurt? No, but I think that's gonna happen. So I'm not gonna complain. Like I don't know. I feel like, yeah. Do I don't want to see that? No, I don't want to see it. But do I really want to see it? Absolutely, I want to see it. Like it's inevitable. And then I'm gonna
That's what I'm talking about.
like, and I'm gonna ask you this: when do you think we see Gojo for the first time? Do you think we see it early in this arc, the middle of the arc, or at the end?
At the end.
Oh, so you would think we're not going to see him until the end of the okay? Why do you think?
Yep. Because he's in a prison, and that's going to be the objective is to end up getting him out. That's going to be somebody's objective.
But I think the problem is, I think Itadori is going to go after him. Itadori and the guy from Zero are going to go after him because they're both his teacher. They both were taught by him. But the thing is, like the elder
If they
said,
don't
people
kill each other first.
if they don't kill each other first,
And also going after Gojo is also a crime.
correct. So the other problem with that, if you go after him and get him out of that prison, it's a crime. Basically, here's the thing: Geto actually helped the elders because he's in a prison, he can't come out, and the fact that prison for life. So basically, I don't know why there's like they want Ghetto dead, but they're like Ghetto actually helped y'all. That he got the one man that's so strong into a place where he can't get out. I'm gonna have to ask for this, and I'm gonna ask for it now. I'm gonna give you two questions. One, what would you rate this episode of JJK episode 47? And two, what would you rate this season, JJK, the Shibuya arc, part in season 2, part 2? Give me
Okay.
give me the episode first and then the season.
All right, episode 47 of JJK. And all the BS that Mappa has put us through with the episode and the seasons. Oh my god. So sticking with the episode. As a nice ending piece and kind of giving a resolution to the arc, which was beautifully done. I am giving this episode a beautiful 10. This was a masterpiece.
Wait. That's your first 10 of the year, by the way.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
your first 10 of this arc. Explain why. Because it's odd because the guy I listened to said 10 as well. And I'm gonna they're probably for the same reason, but go ahead.
Bro, well, despite all the things that happened at Mappa, they were strategic in how they animated their show. They used the cutback budgets and different art styles to put their show out and still make it artful. and still kept their promise of having a fight every season. So therefore, the episode gets a 10.
Okay.
Now, for the season as a whole,
Okay.
that on the other hand gets an entirely different score.
Okay. Explain. Explain. I'm listening.
So I'm giving JJK season 2 as a score and separate it from hidden inventory because
Okay.
this is technically his own arc. I'm giving this season 2 without even hidden inventory. I'm giving it a 8.
Ooh. Explain.
Even though at times you did keep your promise and give a fight. Not I do believe that some of the fight qualities did drop when they should have been keynoted, and then you missed plenty of opportunities to give it a story.
Okay. Okay. I'll give you that one. This is gonna be tough for me. I'll say this right now. Fully agree with Chris. The episode gets a 10. Beautiful scenery, good fight. It's not a full-on fight here. It's actually more or less like just a like they do a little bit of the fighting at the beginning and then they kind of tease some things for the next season. The story you set up here, all right, you got me hooked. Do I need to go back and watch Zero? Absolutely. I probably will do that just because like you literally tied in every season, including Zero, all together. And you gave a reason why it's tied in together. And then on top of it all, you gave all the characters resolutions, the ones that helped each story out at least, because they're kind of probably off to the sunset. They're going to be off to the side for now. And then the other thing I think you did here, you're already teasing the Cohen game with the thing at the end where the guy says, "I'll go after Ichidori. I'll go be his special executioner." By the way, if anybody goes after Gojo, you're a criminal. By the way, his principal, the ghetto, are all going after getting death sentences. Plus, the fact that Hidori lost his special privilege to go after the fingers, and now he's back on his death sentence. I'm gonna give you one prediction for next year. I think we're gonna get for next season. It's a crazy one. It's not super crazy, but I think it's gonna happen. I think Ichidori gets the rest of the fingers, and she can fully control Sukuna any point he wants.
Hmm. I think it's gonna be a somewhat different, but
Go
maybe
ahead.
that might still be the ending conclusion.
What's the
So
what's the difference?
I think there's gonna come a point to where yeah, he does get all the fingers, but he's gonna have to fight for his own control.
Okay, that I can see.
And
That I can see.
and, and then once he does fight, he and Itadori have to have like some kind of partnership. And in that partnership, that's when they have to get that partnership into defeat the last person.
Okay, that I'll give you that. I think it is going to be a fight to keep control of Sukuna, but I think that inner fight will happen. But because we're still missing 5 fingers, by the way, we're still missing because we only have he's 8 and 3, then he ate 10 or 12, I think, from the volcano dude. So there's still 5 out there somewhere. So we don't know where the rest of them are. But yeah, that's gonna be something. Then for this season, I have to give this season a 9. Without hitting inventory, I have to give it a 9. I do agree with Chris on this. I think the fights were pretty good, but you did have some creative differences with how y'all animated certain things. Every fight wasn't good, certain fights were okay. Some of the animation choices you took, kind of weird, some episodes looked like little like Saturday morning cartoons at points, which was kind of weird.
Agree.
And here's the thing: it is not I don't think it's the animator's fault. Not the animator's fault. Not the illustrator's fault. No, I think it's just Mappa trying to overdo it. Ultimately, I'll say this: do I want to see the next season anytime soon? Yes. Here's the thing I'm going to say though. I ultimately will say this: I will give me a full year or almost 2 years before we see the next season.
I can see that.
I know JJK is one of your most hyped things. I get it, but I don't need to see JJK again within a year. Because right now, if you literally started making new JJK anytime soon, you're gonna have JJK and Hell's Paradise running simultaneously again
With Demon Slayer.
with Demon Slayer. With the fact you're also putting out the crazy chainsaw movie. Not bringing up too much going on, so I don't think it's really makes sense. Let JJK on the back burner for a bit. Do Hell's Paradise. Do Chainsaw Man movie. If you want to take Hell's Paradise and put it up against Demon Slayer, absolutely fine. I'll be okay with that. I'm down for that. We've done that before. But I think JJK can sit back for a bit. Maybe at the end of 2024, early 2025, you get the announcement of the Colon game coming out, and then it comes out that spring of 2025. What, Chris? You said you agree with my timeline. Do you think do you think that actually happens, or do you think the thing I'm actually thinking is going to actually happen? I hate to say it, we get an announcement for spring 2024.
I would rather hear a fall announcement for 2025. That's all. But I do agree.
That's the problem. Like JJK is so good. I'm I love I love it. I love the way they do JJK. Chris introduced me to the series. I have to give the man credit. He did introduce me to the series. I started with the movie, and then I watched all season one. We watched all season one simultaneously. Like, I think JJK is a good series, but I think if you do it too much, it's gonna get burned out. I don't know. And at this point, I agree with Chris. Something he's gonna do because I think I'm gonna do it for Demon Slayer if I don't finish it. Because I have the books already. I'm up to book 12. By the time we go to Akon next year, I'm either buying the rest of Demon Slayer, which I'm probably doing anyway, or I'm starting JJK. If we don't get an announcement by the time we go to Akon next year, this year. I say next year, this year because this year just started. I have to get used to that now.
Yeah, next year we should have a bigger announcement.
Yeah. I'm literally gonna buy the start of JJK because I want to read the rest of the series at this point. Would I mind them taking a 2 year hiatus, a year and a half hiatus? No, I'll read the manga. that's easy. That's easy thing to do. I'll finish Demon Slayer by that point too. So like, and I have other things to watch anyway. I can go back and watch Goblin Slayer. I can go back and watch other things. So I have other things in the pipeline I can really go back and watch. But I think this is a good break to take a little break, go through the rest of this year, restart on other things like Hell's Paradise, Chainsaw Man. And once Chainsaw Man comes out, if you want to announce, if you announce, hey, if you announce that, cool. I'm I'm down.
Yeah.
But that was episode 36 of the Anime Judge. This officially ends the fall season. Now we're getting to the winter season. And now by next Tuesday, we'll have at least soul level, or we'll at least have magic muscles.
Oh yeah.
Soul level comes out the 10th, right? Or is it the same day?
Same day.
Same day. So we'll have both
Yep.
the same day. That's gonna be fun to go through that. You also get the news and stuff I find from Anime Corner and other things around the anime world, and also those cool little stories that we keep saying. But I hope you've enjoyed this fall ride Now we're getting into the winter ride, and now we're getting into the end of the winter, heading into spring. Once we get through winter, spring is gonna come fast because then we're gonna have so much left there.
Ooh,
But
man.
but I do thank you for watching. Hope you did enjoy. I'll put this up on the spot. It'll go up on Spotify pretty much after it processes, and then I'll put this up on YouTube on Thursday. We'll be back next Tuesday for episode 1 of Solo Level and season 2, episode 1 of Magic and Muscles. I hope you have a good evening and see you.
Later, dudes.